Justify to me why you aren't vegan.
Yeah, so I had some questions for you in very much good faith, but they're going to be challenging questions for you, and they will kind of go into the position as to why I'm not vegan.
Do they? Do
Um,
they? Okay, cool. I was gonna say as long as they stay on
yeah,
topic, I don't
yes,
mind.
they are. Yeah, they are on topic, and this is a topic I've thought quite a bit about throughout my life as to whether I should become vegan myself. But these are some of the questions. Anyway, I'll just get into them. So, one first question for you is where do you get the food that you eat personally, like
The
vegetables,
grocery
whatever it is
store.
you eat, the grocery store, and um, are you bothered by the fact that I'm assuming these grocery stores, they sell meat, they're staffed primarily by people who are meat eaters. Does that bother you at all?
I mean, I don't like it, but I can't do anything about it.
You can't do. I mean, yeah, there's, and so I would argue there are some things you could do about that, but they would be very difficult to do. You know, you could buy some land, live off the land. You know, these are extreme measures you could go to, but
Sure.
yeah, okay. And then the other question I have is, do you rank order animals and insects as far as like what's most concerning to you that humans eat or murder in pursuit of their food?
I think that if something has sentience and you agree that taking someone's life or using someone without consent is wrong, then it's hypocritical to then use a sentient being without consent.
Okay. And so the vegetables that you consume personally, I'm assuming they are farmed by other people, and
Hmm.
in the process of farming this agriculture, they're using insecticides, they're plowing land that's displacing millions upon billions and
Well,
trillions of insects in order to
you
create
can
the
say a number,
vegetables,
but
right?
there's no, if you can prove that number, I would like to see it.
Okay. And so that gets to my question of how do you, like, I if we could come to a number that there are, let's just hypothetically say there were five
Hmm.
times as many insects that are displaced and lives are taken in order to
Yeah.
avoid, one fifth as many cows or chickens. And that's why I get to my question of how do you rank order? Would you say that one chicken
Oh,
is
I don't rank
worth,
order that. It's based off of
okay,
the intention.
okay. So if if one person were to stop eating chicken and cows, but that would mean that 10 times as many insects would now have to be, their
I
lives
know,
would have to
but
be
did you
taken to
not
get
hear
the
what I said?
vegetables.
So it's the intention.
The
So
intention. Okay.
we have to eat, and I believe in self-defense. If we were, let's say, to have a vegan world, I would hope the farmers would then treat their crops with a vegan mindset of, not turning to insecticides first, but deterrence or other methods. Clearly, that's not the case. And I would say that they're still protecting their crops, so they're not exploiting, enslaving, and using these creatures. These creatures are coming to the crops versus raising an animal or forcing an animal into existence to be used as well as their parents and for them to only live for you as opposed to just living for themselves.
Okay.
So the difference is that you're intentionally using someone without consent versus protecting your crops. I believe in self-defense. I think self-defense is a valid justification.
Okay. Self-defense of the crops
Hmm.
and your
Well,
and
it's also
yourself,
self-defense of you
of
because
you.
exactly. Right.
Okay. So from a purely moral view, how do you choose to say I will stop eating these animals in pursuit of eating a vegan diet? And again, going back to your
Well, I just
intention,
told you. I just
going back
told
to
you
your
because
intention,
I don't
self-defense.
want to, yeah, I don't want to pay someone to enslave and use somebody without consent.
Okay,
Like, you
without the consent
cannot
of the
get
animal.
animal products without crossing their bodily autonomy without consent. You cannot get animal products without doing that. You have to systematically do that.
Right.
So,
What about the bodily
crops,
autonomy,
you,
though, of the insects
Crops
though?
don't have, so the thing is though, they're not exploiting them, they're protecting them.
So like like tilling a huge field will unalive a whole bunch of insects. It'll displace them. It
You
takes away
don't,
their
no. If
autonomy.
you have
No.
do you have some evidence of that? Because I actually have evidence to the contrary. So, like, for example, the
Mm.
rodents, they often aren't caught up in the combine. They migrate because they're smart and they know when they feel large vibrations to run.
Right.
And so they'll usually migrate out to the sides. And sometimes they are preyed upon. So
I
that's
see.
about the only thing that happens.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's
the
very
only
minimal
concern.
what how many
Okay.
and on top of that, of course, I'm sure you know that I'm going to go to that animals eat more plants than humans do. So of course, people or individuals that continue to use animals and demand that they be brought into existence and fed are also responsible for then the following crop deaths that need to be caused for the animals to eat. So you're
Okay.
compounding the harm, if you will.
That no, it's really helpful for me. I guess very, very, very helpful. Honestly, for this is something I've been thinking
Good.
about, and I like your perspective. One last question then that I had is around the the life that the factory farming, I guess it's factory farmer or any farming that goes into the production of meat for human consumption. Um, I often hear the argument that we are taking away their autonomy, their consent. We're cultivating them and growing them so that we can ultimately unalive them and eat them. Um, I often compare the life of these animals to the life of the animals that you see. Have you ever watched the Discovery Channel? Most of these animals, if they live their own natural life, they're eventually going to die not just of old age, but they're gonna get old to the point where they can no longer hunt for themselves. So they're
Mm-hmm.
eventually going to start to starve to death, and then in the process of starving to death, they're eventually going to get eaten alive by another animal. And I compare
Oh,
that to how animals that we factory farmers, the very, very quick and sudden unaliving that we do for them, and I compare that to how these animals in nature are going to just suffer horrendously. And the vast majority of them, I think, are going to suffer horrendously in their natural unaliving.
so so if you
So
feel
that's
that that
another
is
thought. Yeah.
compassionate, if you feel that is a compassionate thing to do, why don't we do that for our family and our loved ones and other humans?
Well, modern day medicine alleviates a lot of the pain that elderly
Oh,
people
so
go
why
through
can't we
as they get
use
older.
modern day medicine for the animals?
I think we do, at least compared to
Okay.
their natural
So,
unaliving. It's very quick. They don't feel a thing.
okay.
It happens right
On
away.
top of that, I would never recommend that we release domesticated animals into the wild as we've now made them dependent on us, which makes them more vulnerable to wild animals. And I would say that because we have bred them into existence, it's our responsibility to take care of them until they live out their lives. So they wouldn't necessarily starve to death, they would just live on sanctuaries.
And I'm not even talking about the releasing of the current animals into the wild. I'm just talking about animals that are born into the wild,
Oh,
just
I can't
nature.
control that.
Right,
I
exactly.
can't
We
control
can't.
that. But, I just want to point out the mammal biomass is only made up 4% of wild animals. The whole global mammal
Okay,
biomass,
okay.
4% wild animals, 60% livestock animals.
Really? Only 4% are wild.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean,
Wow.
it's mind blowing. Yeah.
Pun
When
intended.
I heard that number, I was like, oh my God. I mean, and humans make up 36%.
Wow, that's fascinating. So, yeah, it's because my initial thought would be like the wild animals would be far outnumbering those that are used in agriculture, or not
Right.
agriculture, but
Well,
whatever.
that's
Yeah,
specifically mammals, so that doesn't include
mammals. Okay,
insects or
right, right,
invertebrate or, yeah.
right. So all
So,
the cows, chickens that we use for human
right.
consumption,
Exactly.
the numbers are so vast that they far outnumber what's left in the natural world.
Right. If we
Wow.
can control ourselves as far as what we do to animals first, maybe we can do something about, suffering in the wild, but I think that because we've made such a big mess, we should clean our own front yard before we start going after other people's. Because I see other creatures as more like other nations, they're just other beings living in their own societies. We
So
just don't
that,
understand them yet.
yeah. So I mean, I think that gets back to this last question I had, which was, is the life that these animals that we raise to eventually become food for us, how does that compare to the life of a natural animal born in the wild, and eventually will, live its entire life in the wild, and I would argue will live a very, very painful natural unaliving. How does that the life of that animal compare to one that's born and raised, lives, and eventually unalives in in the other scenario that we want to use for food? They're going to have a very quick unaliving.
Is
They're
it
going to live
that?
a very healthy life because we need them to be healthy to produce the
Mhm.
most amount of food. So I would argue they're actually having a far better life than they would have had they been born and lived in the
Right, but if
wild.
they hadn't been brought into existence, they wouldn't suffer at all. So what I'm saying is we shouldn't be force breeding someone into existence just to use them and justify it by saying, "Well, at least I made them comfortable," because that's
Yeah,
slavery. You're enslaving someone. And it doesn't matter how kindly you enslave someone, it's still immoral to take someone's freedom and make their purpose be solely just for you to use them.
right. Yeah, and so you're chewing back to the point of it doesn't matter how nasty nature gets, it is nature, and nature is what we need to strive for. We all have our
Well,
own
not
nature.
really. What I'm saying
But
is, we don't need to breed these animals into. Okay, let me reiterate what I think you
yeah,
said, so that way I make sure
okay,
I'm answering correctly.
got it.
If I'm understanding, you're saying that the animals we breed into existence are going to live a better life than animals that are naturally happening out in the wild. Correct?
That's a hypothesis. Yeah,
Okay. So the thing is like it doesn't matter if we give them a good life because see the animals out in the wild can do what they want. They have their own purpose to live and enjoy whatever they want to enjoy. Whereas when you breed someone into existence, although they're comfortable, you've stolen their freedom. And that is itself immoral, even if you make them very comfortable. Would you like to be enslaved, to be someone else's thing, and to die at their convenience, even if they put you in this big, lovely living place, a luxurious mansion of some sort, and they feed you five-star meals? Is
um,
that justifying to unalive
yeah,
you at a quarter of your lifespan, or just use you even for
yeah.
whatever they want? To cross your bodily autonomy without your consent considered? Does being treated really well make up for that?
Yeah, yeah. No, I understand your point there, and that's kind of why I'm so much on the fence here. So, well, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
this was
that's
really
fine. So
helpful.
I
Yeah,
just hope that I have some resources. Dominion. I don't know if you've watched that movie before.
Dominion.
It
Okay.
is a bit long, but it shows you just the regular practices that animals used in different industries, not just food, but entertainment, for clothing, for experiments, and you see just the standards, just the what everyone is doing, and it'll open your eyes to what has to happen, and then you can consider is it even ethical to do this kindly to someone? How do you kindly exploit
Yeah,
someone? So
yeah. I'll check it out for sure, Dominion. And I
cool.
do agree that there are some really nasty situations out there. I'm painting the loveliest picture. Imagine if all of our, food production of animals could be in the best possible. I think the argument is
Yeah,
it would still be wrong. Yeah,
exactly. I was like, even the best of the best. I mean, it's not about the suffering. It's just about the exploitation and the non-consensual use.
right.
But to see the reality that there is no way to do it without suffering, even the best of the best, they put secret cameras in there and they find
Mm,
just all sorts of abuse and violations of the rules, but they don't get all the penalties, or it's just a cost of business. It's still, they don't see these individuals as sentient beings. They're a product. When
that's
they're a
right.
product, they're a thing. They don't have feelings, and that's just a poisonous mindset. So
Yeah, it is, and the animals suffer as a result. So,
we all suffer. Yeah, it's
yeah.
terrible.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate your
Yeah.
perspectives.
All right. Well, you have a
All
great
right.
day, Free Thinker. Thanks for coming up.
Thanks, you too. See ya.